So anyhow, yeah, so I am broadcasting from my house like I've been doing everything now. Um, my three kids, hopefully they aren't too loud. They're all doing online courses. They're all taking them. I'm teaching them now. And I'm in my office slash, what, second pantry up over there, and then craft room space. So I'm going to go ahead and switch. I mean, I'm sure it's fascinating to see how many Cheerio boxes we happen to have. But I'll go ahead and switch to something. There you go. That feels pretty sciencey. So we'll go with that. So I have a PowerPoint presentation, and it's meant just to give you a flavor of the department. If this was a normal visit physically on the campus of Augustana, I would also go and take you to the rooms and then point at things and tell you things. But obviously we can't really do that right now. So I'm going to give you an overview of what physics is, what we think our kind of degree in our program will do for you, either physics or engineering, and then give you some specifics about courses and what things look like and what kinds of things make us unique and special. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And here we go. All right, and I'm Nathan Frank. If I didn't say that, you know that now. So the first question is, what is physics? So here, of course, we use one picture of Einstein in every talk because it just has to happen. I'm assuming in this one he was surprised by someone taking his picture. I think that's why his eyes are slightly big. But the whole idea of physics is to understand laws and properties of the universe. And physics itself provides a foundation for every little bit of technology we have, including these computers, or perhaps you're using your phone in order to actually see and participate in this online session. One of the things that I think really is a strength of physics and engineering as well is that you learn strong reasoning, logic, and analytical and quantitative skills. And those kinds of skills are ones that you could continue to apply in an engineering physics context, or easily translate to other kinds of things. We have students that graduate and then don't stay in physics or engineering and then go off into something else. But the kinds of skills that we build are really quite useful. So this is just to give you a sense of, if you're thinking of graduate school, what kinds of scores one actually achieves based on different kinds of majors. And so this is actually looking at the general GRE, which has several different pieces to it: verbal, quantitative, in other words, math, and then analytical writing score. So if you look, you'll see that physical sciences in general, right, you can see where those numbers are and how they compare to majors in different sort of clusters of disciplines. If you're thinking of engineering, what typically occurs is that you're sort of in this range, okay? And what's interesting is when you can compare that to what actually happens in physical science, specifically in physics and astronomy. So if you notice, the analytical writing score is about a 3.8, verbal and quantitative, roughly the same. But what's interesting is that analytical writing score is actually a bit better. And I think that's really a function, not so much of engineering program, of an engineering, say, degree or program by itself, but really is indicative of where most of those kinds of programs are. Those are bigger places. One of the things I think that makes us really strong is that our students, when they go through their first year sequence, really work on improving their writing and communication skills. And that's one of the things that we really do quite well across Augustana, and regardless of your major. We do a really good job of that. And so the key thing is that coming to a place like Augustana, if you're thinking of being an engineer, is really a good idea, because we have a lot of options. And one of the things that we can really do, because we are a smaller place, is we can really help you learn how to communicate better. And Augustana's curriculum is really designed to do that. And that's one of the things that I think really does make us stand out. So that's just my little bit of evidence to point to that. And indeed, if you want to check me to make sure I didn't make up a bunch of figures, you can just go right there to prepscholar.com and you can find that. Okay. So one question that someone might ask, for instance, perhaps a parent, might be, well, I mean, how does it go, right? So you get a degree, and then you go on and get a job, and then, are you okay? And the answer, of course, yes, you're going to be fine, right? You won't be living in the basement. You'll be able to be on your own. You'll be able to move on. Um, and so this is just showing you for physics bachelor degrees, sort of the ranges of salaries, and a lot of it depends on what you're planning on doing. Noticing that these are starting, not average. So of course, over time, one of the things that's really great is that students that go to small liberal arts colleges actually excel when it comes to looking at sort of pay increases over time, as it turns out. There's a recent New York Times article that actually describes that in quite a bit of detail. So the key thing is you're going to be fine, right? So parents, your kids will be fine. And then indeed, what kinds of, this is a little bit more detail in terms of what a bachelor degree earns. So here it includes also engineering fields along with others. Physics by itself has a pretty broad range because it depends on what you do after you get your BA. And then you can see how that compares to different kinds of engineering, math, mechanical engineering, and so on. The reason that the range in physics is really big when it comes to starting salary for a job is simply because there are lots and lots of different options. If your plan is a mechanical engineering degree of some sort, then obviously that's a narrower range because you're going into a very specific kind of field and a specific job, and there's fewer options. So, so this is just to say you're going to be fine. You get one of these degrees, it'll be great. This is a little bit more now talking about us, specifically our department. So we're actually within the top 10% of small college physics programs as far as the number of majors. The number of the majors that we include are physics, engineering physics, and then teaching physics. So physics is if you're thinking of the stereotypical physics degree with the typical kinds of courses, that's totally what we have. We have engineering physics, which includes a few engineering courses, and we have a couple different tracks, mechanical and electrical. We also have some students that do a chemical engineering track, and then also some that are looking at more of a computer science kind of track. And then teaching physics are for those that want to go and teach physics at the high school level. And so those are our three kinds of majors, and we have quite a few students in all of those. So a little bit about us. So other things that make us pretty unique. So Physics and Engineering Club, we like to call them APES because it's Augustana Physics and Engineering Society. Also because it's hilarious. All of you are muted, otherwise I'm sure I would hear all the laughter. Anyhow, this group does quite a few things. They've won national awards from the Society of Physics Students, which is a national organization that honors physics students and the pursuit of physics nationally. And so there's all kinds of things. So here are some students at the building a cardboard boat to be raced in the slough, which we could go and walk to, but I imagine you have a virtual tour somehow so you can take a view of what that looks like. So here they are, and they put together this boat with indeed lots of duct tape, and then indeed pick the two lightest people that they could put in the boat to actually move it. You always have to think about that buoyant force. So there's building activities, lots of social events that this group participates in. There's a lot of outreach. The outreach takes a lot of different kinds of forms. So some are just going out and doing like a one-time show at a middle school or an elementary school. But more recently, they've actually received 2 years. They've received the Marsh W. White Award, which actually supports going out to elementary schools and actually teaching small units on physics and engineering for 2 different elementary schools at ages 1st grade through 4th grade this last year, which is pretty great. So build little bridges with them, or build a tower, or make various kinds of spinny tops. That's a good time. And they do a lot of these kinds of events throughout the year. Of course, there are a lot of field trips and conferences. This is a picture from a really nice looking picture from one of the conferences called PhysCon, which is like a gathering like Comic-Con or any of the others, except it's all physics students getting together to talk about physics stuff. And also our students do go to other kinds of conferences too, some that are discipline specific as in say only nuclear physics, and also some like these, which are pretty great. Their mentor and advisor is Dr. Cecilia Vogel, and she's great and has been continuing to work with them. They're actually hosting a virtual zone meeting for the particular zone that our club happens to be in this weekend. So we'll see how that works. It's the first time for everything, it seems these days. So this is a bit about a research program we have at Augustana that's pretty unique. So our students have lots of opportunities, both local and in town, to get an internship or a research opportunity. So this particular research opportunity is one that I actually run. Here's a couple of different pictures. You can tell this is a long time ago because I have hair. So this, as it turns out, was about 6 years ago, but I'm still running the research program, even though I'm a bit on the balder side. And this research program itself is associated with Michigan State University, and we go there to perform experiments, install detectors like this one, or during January, I was there with a couple of my 2 current research students, and we were installing a new detector that we tested and assembled and verified in my lab on campus. So this is my program. It's associated with MONA, which is an undergraduate research collaboration that involves over 10 institutions, and the vast majority of which are all small liberal arts schools with investigators like me, so faculty, and then also their own students too. I've been doing this for, fall of 2009, so I guess it's been a while, and it's a really good program, and students can get a lot of different kinds of experiences doing this. But it's certainly not the only research program. One of my colleagues that will be back next year, because he's on a 2-year sabbatical, he has a pulsed laser physics lab, which is pretty awesome, using fiber optic lasers, which is pretty great. And another one of my colleagues routinely has students analyze data from radio telescopes. So we have quite a few different things going on that are available right on campus. We also have a special study in Europe program that's been running a number of years. The next year will be next spring. In this particular study away, you have an opportunity to go to Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Depending on which year, will essentially decides which places you will go. And it actually ties 2 different courses together, one that's an ethics course in physics and engineering, and another one in a music course, which is pretty fun. And so those are courses that you'd be taking together and fulfill, of course, a number of your requirements for graduation, and then go on this really fun trip, and then eat apparently lots of chocolate cake. Although not exclusive to chocolate cake, it does look like someone has, looks like maybe perhaps some strawberry cheesecake of some kind. But anyhow, to go to Germany, obviously not just eat cake, but go see the Alps and really get a really great immersive opportunity. And if you haven't heard of Augie Choice, that the money that you receive from Augie Choice you can use to help pay for the trip, and that's $2,000 per student. Okay, my colleague, Dr. Dyer, he has been leading this for a number of years, and it occurs bi-yearly. So every 2 years we have another trip. So internships, I mentioned it earlier. So we have students that have gone to a lot of different places and done a lot of different internships. So this is not an exhaustive list, but just some companies that perhaps you've heard of, or companies that you could do research on and find out a bit more about what they do. So John Deere, we have John Deere Manufacturing in town and John Deere National Headquarters in town. So that's a place where a lot of our students will go and have internships and get hired by John Deere afterwards. Crawford and Company is another one that is a little bit bigger. They do different kinds of things than John Deere, AVG, IMEG, Process Automation Concepts, Olympic Steel, hence the picture of rolled steel. And our students have been able to have quite a few opportunities and internships to really help them get ready to either take a job with that company or build their skill set so then they can finally get that job that they're looking for. Our students that do these are typically engineering physics majors, and certainly there are quite a few other internships that students have worked out. I think one of the more interesting ones was actually after the study away in Europe trip last year, in which a student stayed on in Germany, and then actually did an internship with a German company there, which is pretty fantastic. So our students get a lot of opportunities, and Dr. Dyer is the one that he really does most of the coordination on those and has good contacts. So many more. Definitely not exhaustive. So the structure of the physics, and I would also say the engineering physics major, is quite similar. So in the first year, you'll take Foundational Physics 1. That is actually in the spring. And the whole idea of that course starting in the spring is that if you come in and you haven't had Calc 1 yet, you can take Calc 1 in the fall, and then you're ready to start the sequence. Also, you'll be taking Calc 1 and 2, unless you're already further along in mathematics, in which case then you would just continue taking mathematical courses. Literal studies for the first year sequence, that's a course in which you will learn how to communicate and write and learn how to actually do a college level research paper by the end of that year. And then also Introduction to Engineering. That's a course that really is in the first term, and that's meant for engineering physics majors, or in case you might be interested, that way you can find out. That's a pretty fun course. Different engineers will come from different companies doing different kinds of jobs. Some of them could work for the county of Rock Island or work for a city, and they'll just come in and talk to you about what they do and how they arrived there. That's a pretty great way to find out if engineering is for you. And if it is, well, which kind? Because obviously there are lots of engineers doing lots of different things. In the second year, you would take the last 2 foundational physics courses, which then sets you up to then take a whole host of other courses after that. Those 3 courses really are prerequisites for other courses that we actually offer. So it's important that you get those 3 done, and then you can move on and take other things. And this is where you can start customizing. So another way to say customizing would be to say specializing, right? So for mechanical engineering types, you're going to take one kind of track. Electrical engineering, you take another. Chemical, you take yet another. So as juniors and seniors, certain things everyone will do. So we have advanced lab. That's where you get to play with the fun, fancy toys and learn how to use them and really learn how to do scientific research at a high level. And we have a whole host of physics electives. Also general chemistry, and then other general education requirements, which are really important. It's one thing to say be an engineer or a physicist, and it's another to understand that problems can't just be approached from that one perspective, and you have to think about other kinds of things. I think it's one of the things that makes Augustana pretty fantastic, is that you really learn how to think and ask questions that are different, so rather than just, well, what's the natural science perspective or take on this? It's, oh, well, maybe you have to ask a good historical question or to really understand how you're going to do this or what this means. Why is it the way it is? So that's, I think, really great. I love liberal arts, so anyhow, and clap for myself on that one. Okay, so there's lots of other kinds of options. Certainly lots of classes of math. Double majoring is possible. It's a little tight, but it's doable. And certainly senior internships or research experiences help build your resume, help build your skill sets. We have those that are local and those that are not local. And then, of course, students in 3-2 program can transfer out at the end of the junior year. So the 3-2 program option is 3 years at Augustana. You do all the Augustana requirements necessary for graduation, then you transfer to another school for a couple of years, fulfill those requirements, and you get 2 degrees. Credits and courses would transfer back and forth, and then you get 2 degrees. So that's a pretty great way to help really find that career and get prepared for it. Electives, we have quite a few. So it's basically just, here's a big list. So we have mechanical and electrical kinds of courses, ones that we consider general. In other words, a lot of different majors and specialties will need to take those courses. So optics, thermodynamics, computer applications. And of course, for graduate schools, we do have topics in physics and then quantum physics too, as well. So it all depends on what your track is. And our students are all mixed together. So we have, people that are planning on being mechanical engineers, designing parts for John Deere. And then we have, the physicist that's going to go to graduate school and do astronomy or nuclear physics. And then we have, the high school physics teacher who's also in the class. So, which is another one of the things I think that's pretty fun, is that even when you're specializing, you're not really you're not being isolated from everybody else, and you're still, learning, and really can find out a lot about all kinds of different things that you can think about in your career just in the classes and talking with different students, because everyone's doing lots of different things. So engineering physics major, this one is really important and because it focuses you on what you would need to be prepared to be an engineer in industry. And so we have quite a few engineering assets. We have a 3D printer in-house. It's used as part of the engineering design course that Dr. Dyer teaches every 2 years, at least currently, perhaps every year in the not too distant future. In that course, you will learn Autodesk Inventor, which is a design software. And then at the end of the course, the project will be to actually take something, design it and model it in the software, and then actually come up with some way of improving it. And then you'd have to print your part using a 3D printer and then show how it actually helps improve the product, which is pretty neat. And of course, there's visiting engineers during that as well. We also have a scanning electron microscope, which is brand new. And that's used not just by our physics and engineering students, but students doing all kinds of different things all over campus. And that's a pretty great device, and that's brand new. So that's great. Engineering physics professor is Dr. Joshua Dyer. So careers, as far as engineering physics goes, Exelon Wind. This is a picture of one of our more recent students, Jaleesa. She is working for Exelon Wind. They make wind turbines, and she's actually here posing at the top of it. I don't actually know who's technically holding the camera because it seems like they would not be on it, but maybe it's really wide and so it's all safe. And because that's someone dangling off the edge to take a nice picture. But so she has a job with Exelon Wind. We have students that have gone to work for Boeing, AVG, Pinnacle Design, UTC Aerospace, HBK Engineering, 38th Street Studios. That's actually a company that was founded by Augustana students that majored in engineering physics, among others. So they actually have, they founded a company, which is pretty awesome. And of course, lots of others. This year we have quite a few, we have 10 graduates this year, if I'm remembering everybody. And several of them are going to start working for John Deere right away next year. They've essentially got jobs already lined up. So that's great. The 3-2 engineering program, which I mentioned, 3 years at Augustana, 2 years at any number of affiliated engineering schools. And then you get a BA from Augustana and then a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from that affiliated school. And you get the benefits, you get all the benefits of Augustana College for 3 years. And then you get the benefit of, you can't come in, son. That's okay, Johnny. Anyway, that was my middle child. He was going to come in and do something. Anyhow, oh, the times we live in. All right, so in 3 years, you would be at Augustana College, and then 2 years would be a large engineering school. And there you would get your ABET accredited degree, and you get the benefits of both. So Augustana College would teach you how to communicate well and get you well prepared for all those engineering courses that you would be taking. So these are popular engineering schools, which once again is not an exhaustive list, but ones that you've probably heard of. And a lot of these, the way that these arrangements go is it's not just whether or not we have an official agreement with that school. In the end, it's always student by student in order to figure out, what it is that, what all of the different courses, how they transfer, because of course, every school will change courses every once in a while. And so you have to go through a process to figure that out. But with these schools, we've done this a number of times. So this is a lot more straightforward. Not that we can't arrange something for, say, you to go to Purdue or some other school as part of the 3-2 arrangement. But Dr. Dyer would help coordinate all of those kinds of issues along with our registrar's office on campus. A little bit of information here. So that's my email address. Not that you can't search that online, you can. So that's easy to find. This is also the part where I would pass out a little business card, but obviously, right, that's not happening. I can't actually do that. So that's the end of what I really had prepared and what I wanted to give you sort of a broad overview. And I'd just love to take questions. Any questions at all?
All right, looks like we have one question so far in the chat, Dr. Frank, if you want to look at that.
Oh, I see. So the question is, It is definitely standard engineering physics, or physics. Yep, you bet. Is Augie still on track to start a Bachelor of Science program next year? And if so, can someone who starts an engineering physics program switch to an engineering degree from Augie? Okay, so that's a good question. So we are at the point in the process of starting it not in the fall of 2020, but the fall of 2021 at this point. And that would be an ABET accredited BSE degree. And that would be a 4-year degree offered by Augustana. And that's where we are. We were on track. I think that that's what we're on track to do. Obviously, present circumstances have made lots of things a bit more difficult to sort of pass and get through faculty governments, as everyone is suddenly teaching classes online, and we're planning to. But that is the current plan to do that. Depending on what your exact career plans are, we have roughly half of our students go on to get a graduate degree. It could be mechanical engineering master's or PhD, or a physics PhD, or what else? Material science master's. So we have a lot of our students that will get their 4-year degree from us and then go on for more schooling, and then go so that they're qualified for whatever job or career it is that they're looking for, because that particular job or career really requires that. And so our students haven't had any sort of issues as far as that goes. But at this point, we do not have a BSE on the books, but we're looking for fall 2021. So as the first year. Okay, are there other questions?
Folks can feel free to, obviously you can type them in the chat, or I think we have a small enough group if you want to unmute yourself and just ask any questions too verbally, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, that would be great.
For my AP classes, I'm taking Physics C and Calc BC.
Yeah.
And then next year, I'm also taking Calc 3. So how does something like that change, like how I do or when I do different courses?
So if you come in with a lot of course credit, and by course credit, I really mean you already have credit for Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. So you're talking about coming in after having even Calc 3 as well. And you start in Calc 3, then you would essentially start in the same track, but you're also taking physics on that AP test. Then you would also get credit for some of our first physics courses. So it might mean that you would start right away in the fall, if you were coming during the fall term, and start right in Physics 2 in the second physics course, or perhaps even the third. We've actually had some students have a very similar sort of set of courses that they've already done along with the AP credit. And they started taking the modern physics course in the spring of their first year. So what that does is it definitely would open up a lot of opportunities. So if you're thinking of majoring in lots of different kinds of things, which a lot of our students do, it makes that a lot easier to try to fit in, and opens up a lot of possibilities for you. I mean, it also, I imagine, if depending on how many courses we are talking about, I mean, it could be that you could graduate early as well, I suppose. Which wouldn't be a bad thing, I imagine. Mom, I'm assuming, would agree. I can't see Mom, but I'm guessing. Yeah. So I see a couple things in the chat. Let me go ahead and address those. Oh yeah, William, do you guys know what is happening in the fall? Like, we'll be taking classes on campus or online? Second question, of interest in both electrical and aerospace engineering. Could I do both? All right, so the first question, I don't know yet. There haven't been any decisions yet made on the fall, mainly because, I mean, we're all sort of waiting to see what happens. And obviously a lot of things aren't really in our control as much as we'd like them to be. And so the online classes or on campus, that decision hasn't been made yet. But there are certainly discussions underway, for what things would look like. I think that our courses I think that a lot of courses will translate well to online if that is, what we need to do. And if that's what we need to do, then that's what we'll do. But I don't know when that decision will be made. I don't really have a really good time frame on that. I would assume that a decision would have to be made by the end of May or sort of mid-June, because that's roughly when students start registering for classes. So that kind of thing would have to be in place, I imagine, around that time frame. I know some places have already decided what they're going to do, but I know Augustana is waiting until we know what the situation is, and then we'll move from there. As far as being interested in electrical and aerospace engineering, so that's a really good question. So I think you would. I guess it depends what you wanted to do afterwards, William. I mean, are you thinking of doing a 4-year degree? Are you thinking of a 3-2 program? Are you thinking of graduate school? So what we would need to do is you'd really have to pick one. And that's true even if you were at a 4-year, ABET accredited school. Doing electrical and aerospace at the same time, that would be a challenge to try to fit in, just because the ABET requirements for aerospace engineering and electrical engineering degrees are quite extensive, and I don't think there's a lot of overlap. Now, we've never had a student ask that before, so it is possible that it's doable, but my gut instinct is telling me that that would be probably pretty tough, but you'd have time to decide. So it's not as if you'd have to decide on day one, because a lot of at least the courses that you would take right at the beginning would be the same for both. Okay, so I think you'd have time to figure that out. Let's see, are there any work studies opportunities? Yes, there are definitely work studies opportunities on campus. We have the Edge Center, which I'm sure Mike can talk a little bit about if you had questions on that. And that's a pretty great opportunity on campus to really work on web development and other kinds of projects. Any sort of local research that we have on campus, either with me or another colleague of mine, those would be things that we would have. There would be money to support, so you would be paid while you're working on those. And there's certainly lots of work study opportunities just in general on campus. In our department, we have student teaching assistants that help in a number of our courses for either the algebra-based physics courses, which are not part of the major sequence, but we have a lot of labs. And we definitely need extra hands and extra heads, more importantly, right? We need people that can understand physics in those to help us out. And we definitely have a lot of opportunities like that just within our department. So there definitely are work studies opportunities. Next question. So follow up, you don't have to declare a major until sophomore year, which means students starting this fall could get a BS in engineering in 4 years from Augie if that ends up being the path they want to take. So that's a good question. I guess it depends on the year that you come in. So the key thing is that the earliest the BSc would be in place would be fall of 2021. So if you were to come in fall of 2021 as a student, then you'd be able to receive that BS degree, and you definitely would not have to declare it right away. So the declaration, right, all of that is the same. We encourage our first-year students to declare by the spring term of their first year if they've decided on something. So and that wouldn't change. Many of the requirements are not different for a BS degree. Yeah, so you would still be able to decide BA or BS from fall of 2021. Yeah, safely and with gusto. I like that, Mike. That's great. Definitely gusto. I'm very excited to just be in my office. Not that this, spacescape isn't great, but
Yeah, and we will definitely continue to keep both our incoming students and just our prospective student community up to date and informed. We know how important it is for you all to know kind of what the next steps are, as you guys are also determining those in your own high school environment. So just continue to pay attention to our admissions page. We're trying to keep kind of COVID related updates kind of at the forefront of what we link on our website too. And then for you admitted seniors, we'll continue to have opportunities to connect with other incoming students throughout the course of the rest of the spring here and into the summer. So you will be informed, we promise you.
Yeah, let's see. So a question from William: by choosing engineering and physics, would you be automatically be in the 3-2 program? How big do these classes get? 3-2 program is a choice, so you would have to decide on that by the end of your sophomore year or very beginning of your junior year, so that way things can be put in place so that there's a 3-2 agreement for you. And then how big do the classes get? Well, it depends which classes you're talking about. So our first year classes for our majors, no more than 24 in a section, and upper division courses, I mean, we don't have more than 20, and we have quite a few classes actually that are around 10 or 12. So we don't have, you won't be one among like 2,000 or 100 or even 50. So that's pretty good. Oh, I see the comment. Please wait as long as possible for deciding to not have students on campus. Yeah, I can understand that sentiment a lot. Agreed. We're going positive. Also, things are getting a little weird. The other day, I started one of my synchronous class session meetings with one of the puppets that my kids have, just to see. You start getting stir crazy and getting a little creative. So they sort of reacted okay to the pirate, but I don't know. I'm not sure if that's really the way to go. I might try the mermaid next time, but I'm looking forward to. I've never actually done a puppet in front of class before. I probably could now. That feels like an Augie thing to do. But anyhow.
That's a very liberal arts experience, I think, for students. So.
That's right.
Well, are there any other final questions for Dr. Frank from anyone? If not, you have his contact information. I'll be providing him, everyone on here, his contact information as well. But if there isn't anything additional, we would obviously thank you again for being here this evening. We have a lot of options throughout the remainder of the spring here virtually. We have our cool virtual tour of campus. Please take advantage of that, especially if you're kind of just getting your feet wet and into the knowledge of Augustana. We will have the best and most engaging on-campus opportunities as soon as we can have them for you all, and for you incoming seniors. We're excited to have you on campus this fall too. So I know I'm looking at you too, Carson. So if you guys have any questions, follow up with us. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your evening. Best of luck with distance learning and stay safe. All right, thank you.
Thank you. You can email me directly if you have questions. That's perfectly fine.